Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Today on Breaking Protocol, we're diving into the Machiner, a Transformers-like sentry mech hybrid created by a faction distinct from the Xavior line and the Snacklets, designed specifically to challenge your senses of safety and push your mastery of blocking, air blocking, and shield charge decision making. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! The Machiners exist for one reason: to make blocking feel powerful. It overwhelms you with non-stop fire, pushes you into defensive stances, and forces you to evaluate when to shield charge and when to simply endure. It denies space the only way a mechanized turret should, and it challenges Zura to be an immovable wall. So Kendall, when you think about the shield fantasy as something stated within this DAU, it's the idea of standing firm against overwhelming fire, how does an enemy like this reinforce that fantasy for you?
The core goal, like literally the main reason why we created the Arc Machiner was in order to get a minigun to shoot into your shield. Is the only purpose this enemy exists. Like that was the thing that I said to myself. I need an enemy that, you could feel like Captain America, like something just hyper oppressive is shooting at you and you're like constantly blocking and moving forward, kind of Wonder Woman kind of moment where, she's just blocking with her forearms and these bullets are going everywhere. Just that feeling. It's something that I think games haven't been able to give us recently, mostly because it's not about it being a technical challenge at all. It's because it doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of circumstances. And I think that's okay, right? If an enemy shoots at you, if it shoots at you so fast, you're probably going to die so quickly that the error of you not blocking is just unacceptably high. So our goal with an enemy that is that oppressive is then to give the player this moment of true power. And the power should come from defense. So at that point, we're celebrating your ability to stay alive versus celebrating your ability to deal damage. And that's like something that I think parry windows do really well in games like Nine Souls and others. And it's just like, can we make it so that you feel really proud of yourself and really rewarded for surviving? And this is one of those moments. So conceptually, the idea is the Machiner shoots, they transform into this little, machine gun turret, and they shoot at you in a straight line, and they shoot incredibly fast. So we're talking about multiple bullets a second. So it just feels like they're just nonstop on your face. And they're far from you. They can shoot from pretty far. Like, you can still see them in the screen, but they shoot from pretty far. And if you don't block, you're dead very quickly. So then whenever you block, what happens? Well, the goal is for us to be able to allow you to move forward towards them, blocking. They'll move towards you. You will be able to move towards them, blocking and trying to get as close as you can to them. But then that's the utility of a movement skill we have in the game called the shield charge. So if you're blocking and you dash, or you dash and you block during the dash, you will switch that dash into like a shield first kind of forward dash, which Zura will put her shield in front of him, and every single projectile that hits you during that time will just be dispersed and goes everywhere. And we've already programmed this in a way that it looks spectacular. Whenever an enemy is shooting at Zura, bullets go everywhere. It just looks great. They bounce all over the place. We're gonna make them. I mean, we did for a while make them so that they hit the background and let's say there's a chair that's destructible. The bullets hit them. The bullets used to even hit back enemies. So it was very, very powerful, right? So if a machiner is shooting at you, you pretty much clear the entire room just by blocking. That's not really the goal, but it is incredibly satisfying to see it happen. So yeah, what else can I say there? The core fantasy is satisfied just by holding that button, but you're gonna feel it in your controller. You're gonna feel the rumbling. You're gonna see the bullets go everywhere and ricochet. You're gonna see them destroy little canisters here and there, or little box over there, and eventually we'll figure out if there's a way to make them hurt enemies in a way that's like balanced. But the fantasy of you being an immovable wall is the number one goal of the enemy, and then of course train you for boss mechanics, which we'll introduce later.
It feels like this enemy is tailor made to force players to force Zero to utilize the shield specifically, as you're already mentioning. So I have to ask, can we expect other types of enemies that will have the same type of effect with other weapons and instruments? Like, will there be a specific enemy meant to challenge your use with the katana or the axe, etc., etc.?
There will be definitely multiple, and they might be like multiple per region. I think it's really important because even though you can solve like if you think about the machiner, right? Like you can solve the problem that the machiner brings up with many weapons, right? You could throw a spear at it, you could do a bunch of things, right? But we'll design it in such a way that, if the machiner turns, I mean, the machiner's kind of chunky. I mean, it's a pretty, strong mechanical being. So if you throw a spear at it, you're not going to kill them. And whenever they're like in turret mode, you're not going to be able to push them back. So they are designed to solve against things that are normally your kind of go-to solutions for enemies that are far away. So the idea is to constantly get the player to not think about my only solution to something that's further than melee range is the spear. That's we're gonna start breaking that by putting you in situations that if you take the time to throw the spear, you're gonna be like, this thing is gonna riddle you with bullets. So you have to but you can still jump, you could dash, and then you can crash with the axe on top of it. You could do that, right? It's not like you couldn't do it. But we're not that. I mean, we're decent developers, so we're going to create problems where you might not be able to do that. There might be a wall that you can't go through. There might be like a gate that you can't go through, and they can shoot through and you can't. So we'll create situations where the first few times you encounter an enemy like that, you'll be able to take it out with whatever you want to. But slowly and surely, we're going to start, bringing down the solution space into not forcing you. We never want to force you to use a specific instrument, but we definitely want to make those instruments and the players that are deeply in love with that instrument feel incredibly satisfied. There's also something that it's conversations that I have with some people on the server. Like we have people that they really love the spear and they really love the katana, right? But if I give you a situation that is like a huge cinematic, I call it cinematic, but it's not like an actual
Cutscene.
But
Yeah.
but if it's something like you feel incredibly powerful because you used the axe in this one moment, you might fall in love with it. And they'll be like, oh, this is a button that it's not like I don't use it, but I don't use this often because I would prefer to deal with these other buttons. But now I just saw what this can do. And, the devs kind of gave me this moment of like, go have fun. Here's like this crazy moment that you get to enjoy because you love the axe or you love the spear or you love this. And your brain will slowly start tying together types of problems with instruments. And let's say you have many enemies in a line, you're going to think spear, right? That's great. Eventually we would say yes, but what if like many enemies in a row could mean shield charge, and then you pile them all together because you're bringing them with you with the shield because you're unstoppable, and then when they're there all together you just swing one axe and they just explode. So two players might think about that problem completely different. We want you to get both. But if we put an enemy at the end of that room that's shooting at you, 7 bullets a second, it's exaggeration, but you get they're really kind of shooting a bunch of bullets, and there's other enemies, then your option space gets reduced to probably the shield charge and maybe the spear vault and a couple other things. But that's going to give you that moment of joy that says, not only did I charge with my shield and all the bullets went everywhere and I just feel like I'm in the Marvel universe,
Right.
but I also just literally dragged 4 enemies all the way to the end of the room, and then I just mashed them and they all explode, and I just got like, it's a piñata of freaking, lithium, and I just feel like a monster. Like I feel so powerful for such a tiny little thing like Zura. We want to give players those moments with every instrument. and they're going to be constant. So eventually, my hope, I don't know if I'm not saying every room is going to be designed that way, but the hope is that multiple times in a biome, you will get a couple of rooms that you'll see yourself kind of inevitably falling into the idea that there's got to be a solution for this room where I could do, something kind of spectacular with the way the enemies appear and whatnot. And we will not like fully prescribe it, but definitely there's rooms that you could do whatever you want to, but a single shield throw would be one of the coolest things you feel because it'll bounce between like a bunch of enemies and you'll just hear the sound like whatever. That feeling is something that we want to give players as often as we can.
Yeah, very Captain America. Now, I want to talk about the design aspect of this enemy. It's not just one, it transforms, right? And as a big Transformers fan, I instantly thought of Galvatron, right? Megatron's upgraded form where Megatron, let's use the G1 example. He turns into a gun, right? Just a handheld, like a pistol, whatever. Cool, okay, whatever. When he turns into Galvatron, he now transforms into like a giant cannon, and that's exactly what I'm getting from the Machiner. Obviously, I'm sure there's inspirations from Bastion from Overwatch, right? Can you dive into more details about the concept and inspirations for this enemy?
I would definitely say that Bastion and that the way it transforms is definitely an inspiration. I think like the way that Bastion used to feel in old Overwatch, if you ever play that version of Bastion where he was stationary,
Yeah.
that is one of the most fun ways to oppress another human being. I don't know how to tell you. It's just so fun. Like you're a tank, you're blocking, and you're just hoping that your shield will last, and Bastion will just burn through it. It was just great. I understand why they nerfed it and why it's like now like not what it used to be, but it was definitely one of these. If you want to put somebody in a situation where they can't play the way they want to, you play Bastion, right? That's over. Time has passed, but it felt good to say this is a solution to like you have what Reinhardt and 20 other shields in a freaking team, and you're trying to deal with that. Here's one solution, right? A lot of damage, very very fast. But the main thing of Bastion that I liked was whenever you're dealing with a Genji, and I don't know where Genji hits that button, right? And for people that don't know, Bastion is like a turret kind of hero in Overwatch, and then Genji's like a little like a cyber ninja or something, and when you press this button, he'll start reflecting. So if you're trying to shoot at a Genji and they start reflecting your bullets back, the player that feels epic, it's not you anymore, right? Is the one that's like dealing with your bullets, right?
Yeah.
What if that could be, a shield, like instead of like this other button? Like what if I am like getting that same feeling against something that if I don't do something about it, it will take me down. But if I do something about it, I feel spectacular, right? So it's what we were saying in the prior recording for the Hugger. We can't be in a situation where both sides have a lot of power, and it's mostly about the decisions that the player takes. So in this situation, that's what I'm hoping for, right? This moment that whenever you raise that shield, you do not feel weak. You feel incredibly powerful. That's the hope. So of course the enemy seems like it's kind of trivial. It definitely isn't, because if you fall in front of it and this thing is transformed and you don't react quick enough, you're gonna die very quickly. So it's not an enemy that is like insignificant at all. But the solution space for it is definitely in the simpler side. So there are definitely situations where maybe like a puzzle, I call it a puzzle, but it's mostly just level design, where you might not be able to get behind them very quickly. So you might not be able to solve for them the way you think. Like it's a very linear enemy that out of nowhere, positioned correctly in a really good level, might be incredibly difficult to deal with, and it's part of like the puzzle of using all your tools correctly. So yeah, some of these enemies you guys have to start imagining them in more than just like a empty room where you could just like do everything you want. What if the room is not set up to your benefit? What does that look like? What if there's other enemies like the Exo that stands in front of it with a shield that does not let you get to it, and maybe they don't let you charge through? What happens then? So that's the dream, to create those situations and kind of give you the opportunity to pretty much play the equivalent of a cinematic fighter, where you are dealing with all this chaos at the same time and also you're able to do it without taking a single unit of damage if you lose well, and feel great.
This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help what Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.